So Vivian, this is the first time I'm meeting you. I'm sure
Yeah,
this well, it's very nice to meet you finally. I mean, we've texted a couple of times, but if you don't mind, in a minute or two, who is Vivian? Who is Vivian Kabasinga?
thank you so much. Vivian Kawasinga is a Ugandan.
Uh-huh.
I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm an
You're what?
accountant, but I'm a Pan-Africanist.
Pan-African. Okay.
Yeah,
That's a big badge
I'm
of
an account.
honor. Mm.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I would love to associate myself with that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm an accountant by profession, but I'm also a young entrepreneur. I used to call myself a CEO, but my friends corrected me and like,
Uh-huh.
there is a certain amount of money you need to start calling yourself CEO for now. Young entrepreneur will work. Yeah, I head the team at the VK Lines. It's a fashion house that does custom made things.
Hmm.
But I'm also a youth leader in the National Youth Council. Yeah,
Youth leader in Uganda, you mean?
yes, in Uganda.
Okay. So, what brings us together is the fact that you read one of my books, I think Beyond the Fourth Heritage, right? The this one.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, good.
Mm.
How did you come around to read it, and what's your impression of the book?
A friend of mine recommended it to me. I have a friend who usually shares books with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him I was going through something, and he was like, I'll give you a book to read.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't need a book to read right now with the problems that I had. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, read it, read it. And
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. So yeah,
Mm.
that's how I got to read the book. A person recommended it for me.
And if you don't mind, can you share some of the main takeaways? You know, some of the things you remember about the book.
Yeah. One was
Mm.
to the main takeaways. I
Mm.
have been living a life and I have not been observant of what is happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
being there and think about your history and how it's contributing to your life. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
taking time to
Mm-hmm.
actually be conscious of the things that are happening around you and globally and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so first of all, I started thinking about it. I was like, oh my goodness, I have been so busy not
Mm-hmm.
thinking about all these things, but also the aspect of mindset change. The aspect
Mm-hmm.
of mindset change, it is so
Mm-hmm.
bold. Like, it is so bold, even when you don't want to recognize it,
Yeah.
it will hit and give you a slap in the face. Yeah, and I think it's something that I picked out. I
Mm,
felt like, man, it's
mm,
like, watching a motivation speaker speaking to you, but this is a
mhm,
real motivation speaker because
mm,
he's speaking an African story, a story
mhm,
that you understand. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Wow. No, that is really, really encouraging to hear that from a young person like you. You know, I started thinking about these ideas when I was maybe your age or even earlier, in my early 20s. And it took me years to put them down. But the aim of writing this book is my third book, but the aim of writing this book was more to address that young me, you know, when I was 19, 20, 21. If I could address myself back then, what would I, what was I thinking then, and how would I go about expanding my thoughts and customizing or going through what I was being taught and trying to personalize them such that I can say, you know what, this is me, as opposed to a lot of the noise that comes through education and culture and other things. There are things that are good for society, but they may not sit well with you or with your spirit or with your consciousness. And the book is trying to see my mind, myself, just wrestling through these big things about society and coming forth or coming through with a very specific way I identify myself and the way I articulate what I like about what society is trying to teach me and what I don't like. Because in the end, everyone likes certain things, everyone doesn't like certain things. But are you sure about what you like and what you don't like? And are you brave enough to say what you like such that those things define you without apologies. Because if you read the book, I was trying to say, this is me, this is how I think.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah.
feel
These are my
it makes
feelings.
sense, if you think it
Mm,
makes sense, maybe you can also think like that.
mm.
What do you think?
I think the book makes a lot of sense to
Hmm.
me as an African person. There is a lot of things that we need to learn,
Hmm.
especially on, I think you call them the four ills that we
Hmm.
always
Yeah.
have.
Hmm.
I remember when we were watching the coronation of the king
Hmm.
in UK, and people were looking at the crown, and young people in Africa were like, oh, that's all stolen gold from Africa. We are poor
Hmm.
because of these guys. And the question came into my mind, we still have these resources, but we are
Hmm.
still poor. What are we using with these resources, you know?
Yeah.
Apart from playing a victim, yes,
Hmm.
maybe they stole something, but with
So
what
what?
we have right now, what have we done with it? We have
Mm.
totally done nothing
No.
with what we have right now. We still have that gold,
Hmm.
and it's too much,
Hmm.
but we haven't done anything with it. Like, we have not woken up to say, oh my goodness, we have gold and we want accountability of it as young
Mm.
people or as Africans. What is our
Mm.
gold doing? But there are people that are mining gold. The country is still not benefiting, but we
Hmm.
are crying about the past mistakes, but we are not even willing to,
Mm.
open up our eyes to correct the
Mm.
current mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so
I call that a psychological disease because it is just like a cancer or malaria, how they infect the body. Our minds are infected by that victimhood mentality where people just give up on responsibilities and working hard and instead spend a lot of energy to
yeah, like,
articulate how much we are a victim. Like literally, if they spend that much energy writing a book,
mm,
they would write a great book for other people to read, but they spend all the energy finding fault with what other people are doing or have done. And
yeah,
yeah, it is sad. And I hope in the book it comes out. It does not matter how messed up your history was. You cannot
mm,
change history. You cannot change history. The only thing you can do is change the way you think about history in a way that gives you power as opposed to in a way that makes you pitiful and ask people to sympathize and pity you forever. That's not a formula for success.
I know, yeah. So personally, I think
Mm.
I have learned a lot in that book.
Mm.
And I was talking to my friend in the National Youth Council. I was like, man, this book
Mm.
needs to be included in curriculum. These things are
Mm.
going to change only for mindset change. And
Mm.
we don't even get half of this knowledge. I
Yeah.
have a feeling that it needs more exposure. I was talking to a few friends and I was like, we have actually good work
Hmm.
about mindset change that is not yet exposed to people, because I believe I'm not that so good at reading. But if
Mm.
I found it nice, I believe
Yeah.
there are thousands of Ugandans,
Mm.
if they have access to it,
Mm.
it can change their lives. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe the
I
other thing.
I believe talking
Mm.
alone, they
Mm.
might miss a lot. I feel like that book is so nice that one
Yeah.
cannot, give you a brief of it like in
Yeah.
1 hour. Like, you're
You
missing a lot. But
you
if
have
you
to read
read
it.
it, yeah,
Mm.
if you read it, it's
Mm.
self-explanatory. Like, you do not
Wow.
need to emphasize a point. It
Wow.
explains it. Like, it changed my life. I remember I was not going for politics
Uh-huh,
because
uh-huh.
I didn't have money. I remember telling you this story,
Yeah, yeah.
and a friend of mine was like, read the book.
Mm.
I was like, I don't need to read a book right now. All I need is money.
Yeah.
He was like, read the book. And I can tell you, after reading the book, like, it's so addictive that you want
Mm.
to know what is happening in the other chapters. Like, I want to know, I want to finish it.
Wow.
I
Wow.
remember after finishing it, I hit the road, and
Yeah.
I thank God that I joined. I thank God that I joined politics, because I
Yeah.
have gotten opportunities that I wouldn't
Yeah.
have gotten if I did
Mm.
not dare to try. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
it's life
Interesting.
changing.
Okay. No, that's a good point you say. Did you read the appendix too? You know, I have a big appendix where I talk about Africa and the modern civilization. I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
That is the main part where it has Africa in the modern world, Africa and the pre-modern mindsets, our psyche
Mm,
were dismembered. Those are the four ills.
mm,
So you read the appendix, right? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. What practical changes has reading the book impacted on you?
Mm.
You know,
Personally,
you were doing like this, but now you're doing like this. Yeah.
yeah, practical changes is I have realized that I do not have limitations.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah, I used to maybe blame, you're like, my parents, they didn't
mm-hmm,
do enough. For
mm-hmm.
example, when I joined politics, there is a lot of like rich people's kids.
Yeah.
This is so son, and this one is
Mm-hmm,
this one's son. They have this
mm-hmm,
amount.
mm-hmm.
And then for you, you're trying to fix where you don't fit. You know, in your
Yeah,
heart,
yeah,
you're like, you don't fit in these guys.
yeah, yeah.
Like you don't fit. You're not going to make it through and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what the book helped me is to know that I'm enough and I'm meant to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I set my mind and I told
Mm-hmm,
myself I'm enough and
mm-hmm,
I'm meant to be here. And
mm-hmm.
it's crazy that even when you go into those circles and you fit in, no one will know your background.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
yeah.
your few friends that be like, man, how did you make it? Like you're part of those
Mm.
guys that you're like, yeah, I'm
Yes,
trying. Like,
I belong.
because I,
I,
yeah,
I belong.
because I have set my mind
Mm-hmm. Right.
to that. In your book, you called it
Mm-hmm,
you went into a sobering state. You know, you're
mm-hmm,
always unsober of certain things that I do not deserve this, or this is
mm-hmm,
not for me, or
mm-hmm,
this is for maybe this class of people, or this
mm-hmm,
is for this. But I
mm.
also reached that sobering state of
Yeah,
knowing that if I want something, I'm
yeah.
going for it, and I'll
Mm. Wow.
yeah. So that really changed a lot in the things that I have done in my
Mm,
entrepreneurship. I felt
mm,
like to start up maybe a business, I need a certain amount of money. I
mm-hmm,
need a certain, amount of skills and all of
mm.
that.
Yeah,
I wanted to start up my fashion house, and my friends were like, "You have never even done fashion. You don't know how to operate a sewing machine. How
mm,
will it be successful?"
mm.
But after reading the book, I was like, I don't need to know how to,
Yeah. You'll
operate a
figure it out.
sewing machine.
You'll figure it out.
I don't need to. I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I found guys that were good at doing it.
yeah,
They do my work. I'm also learning in the process, but the business is going on. I'm not
yeah.
going to wait to first learn
Wow.
how to operate it and all of
No.
that. Like, I realized that I do not have limitations. I
Yeah.
remember I started my fashion house and I
Mm.
didn't have a sewing machine.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't have a sewing machine, but
Yeah,
I was
but
getting.
you had the will. You had the
I
will to
had
do
the
it.
will. Yes,
Yeah.
I had the will. I
Mm,
had people that had sewing machines and they were good. I was using them. I
mm,
can tell you that all the sewing machines I have bought them through
mm.
other people's sewing machines because my
Wow.
mindset was right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was right what I'm going to do it and it's
Mm.
going to work out.
Wow,
So
wow.
the practical bit of it is,
Mm,
someone does not understand the aspect of a mindset change
mm-hmm.
until you change it. It is very hard to change a mind, I can
Yeah,
tell you.
of
It
course.
is extremely hard. I have been attending those mindset change in Simancha
Yeah,
Kwanzi. Then a political someone comes and tell you something, but you feel like you're not shifting.
yeah,
I
yes.
remember there is a day when you were like, government is not helping us. They are
Mm,
not supporting us. They are not
mm,
doing this. That's why we are broke.
mm.
Until when I read the book, I was like, you need to sober up, young
Yep.
lady. Like, you need to sober up, like, real quick. No one is going
Mm,
to come and give you money.
mm,
Use what you have, use the social capital that you have, use everything that you have around you. And I have
mm.
realized I do not have limitations in certain things. I do
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I know.
Mm.
And it, it, I we grow up thinking we are not enough. We grow up thinking there's something wrong with us, so we cannot do the big thing. And because we grow up with that environment, we end up believing it. And once we believe it, then we set our limits so low. Yeah.
Mm.
But I hope when you go through this book, you realize just like any kid in Tokyo or London or New York, if you put your mind to something and you don't complain, but rather
Mm.
put in the energy, eh? Because God gives some people a lot, others
Mm.
small, others more, whatever it is. The fact is, depending on what you are given, as long as you do it the best you can, then
Yeah.
you go beyond. That's why I
Mm.
call this book Beyond the Fourth Heritage. The fact is, whatever you have, even if you're born as a prince, if you don't do
Mm.
anything, you will be a failure, right?
True.
Yeah. So whether you're born poor or a prince or whatever you're comfortable with being born with, The fact is, you must go beyond it. And when you go beyond it, that is when you are in the realm of flow. You know, psychologists
Yeah.
call it flow, where you do things effortlessly, where you connect with the people effortlessly, where you get a job that you are not qualified for, but then you learn it and you excel at it. It's because your mind is straight. So, wow, I really appreciate this feedback. What have your friends said about what you tell them from the book?
I think because they haven't read it. You know, when you haven't read something, they've been
Yeah, you get
they
this.
exaggerate some things. You know, and someone tells you, and you know, when you tell them, you sound like a motivation speaker.
Yeah,
Man, we hate motivation speakers. Like they
yeah,
are not real. And
they are
you're
not
like,
real. Mhm.
book is real. This
Mm,
book is real, and the beauty of it, it is written by an African person who understands the
mm,
African perspective. In your book, you talked about a certain writer that was asking the
mm,
generational role.
mm,
Like, I'm privileged to be in positions where we can take our decisions on behalf of the young people of
mhm,
Uganda.
mhm.
But all we do is lament. I
Yeah.
can tell you, we used to lament,
Mm,
and
mm,
they are still lamenting. But when I read
mm,
the book, I always, tell them, but what is our generational role?
mm,
If we say the generation of the Musevens fought for
mm,
peace and,
mm,
there is favorable conditions for us to thrive,
mm,
what is our generational role as the young people of Uganda right now?
mm,
What are we supposed to do? What is
mm,
that contribution we are supposed to do so that
mm,
those that come before us can
mm.
say, oh, that generation, like how we say the generation of Museveni maybe brought peace. There was no freedom of speech and all of that, but
Yeah,
we have it right now.
yeah.
What can we say as the young people of today? What is the generation that is coming before us will talk about us? What did we do?
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
telling you, we need to
Mm,
realize our responsibility in
mm,
Uganda right now. What is the responsibility of our
mm,
youth in Uganda right now? What
mm,
can we do to the national building of our country?
mm,
And
mm,
we all came to a consensus
mm,
that all we need is socio-economic transformation because
mm,
our people are broke. Everyone
mhm,
is poor and all of that. What we need right now is how do we make sure that maybe people have enough money to afford basic needs, to
mm,
live a life that they want and all of that.
mm,
And
mm.
how can we contribute to that? Is
Yeah.
crying that the government is not supporting us to do the businesses that we
Mm,
need because we believe that if we are able to maybe create jobs
yeah.
and people are able to learn and all of that,
Mm,
advocate for better health care. Is a normal Ugandan able to go and get really that kind of medication and health care that they
yeah, they want.
deserve,
Mm, mm,
that they want? Yes. And if the government is not going to help us, how are we going to be like the generations of Museveni that brought
mm,
peace?
mm, mm,
How are we going to gather maybe resources? Which people do we need to go to? If we don't have people, how are we going maybe to form circles to make sure we start up
mm.
maybe multi-million businesses?
Yeah.
We can do it. Imagine one person being
Mm,
able, we can even start by three. I was telling my friends,
mm.
me employing my three people, I'm actually contributing to,
Oh,
to
that's a
the
big
work.
deal. Mm, it's a big
Yes,
deal.
they're
Mm,
able to have food, they're able to sleep, they're able to, have basic needs. What is
mm,
our responsibility? And I always tell them that it is
mm.
not to lament. We need to find a way. We need to
Okay.
find our generational role. We need
Yeah.
to
Mm,
contribute. So what
mm,
the book taught me
mm,
mostly is
mm.
to stop the blame game. When you
Yep.
blame your parents, like, you give me the best
Yeah.
education. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I went to UPE schools. Get yourself
Mm.
better. There are books you can read.
Yeah.
Match up with the people that went to, private schools, or even be better than them.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh my
Mm,
goodness. My parents didn't buy for me a car. These big people's kids have a car. They have where to start from. They have businesses to work in. No, I can
mm,
start up my own. I can start up my own. I can
mm,
employ people. I can
mm,
start up my own and make sure that a generation that is coming after me will have,
mm.
where to start up from. So
Yeah. No.
yeah, there are
The,
parts in your book.
mm,
Especially, there is also
mm,
what you call the integrative mindset.
mm,
How do we pick the positives in a lot of things?
mm, mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know they say we love copying the whites and all of that, but there are better things we can copy from them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm.
remember our
Because they
president
also
was,
copied. Because they also copied from other people.
Yeah,
Mm.
they also copied from other
Yeah.
people, but how can we copy the positives out of them and even outdo them? How
Mm-hmm.
can we copy like good certain things from different societies, our religion,
Mm.
our tribes,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
everything that's around us to make sure that we are better. And I believe we have the capacity as Africans to actually do extraordinary and better things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that from an early age, teachers and people don't tell us that. Because you're saying that because you read it in a book, and for me, I wrote it because I experienced it when I was living in the US. So there is a big gap. There are many years where we are unproductive or we are not thinking about the right thing. And by the time we come to that juncture where we think about the right thing, we are too old, we are weak, or we already settled in some station in life, so you're just minding about your stomach. So yeah,
Yeah, how to survive.
yeah, how to survive. So yeah, there is an opportunity for the society and parents. I'm a young parent now, for parents and teachers to teach us as we are growing, such that we don't waste 5, 10, 15 years, like
Yeah.
where we don't know the right thing. So that is what I was trying to get at by making this book as simple as possible, such that whoever grows up in any African setting, whether in Uganda or West Africa, whatever, if you read this book quietly by yourself and you take stock of your life, you realize
Yeah.
you need to wake up, get up, and do something.
Yes, I
You know?
know. And it gets you from that depressed kind of state. I
Yeah.
can say it got out of that depressed kind of state. You know, you're feeling sorry about yourself,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
shouldn't feel sorry about yourself. You're a
Yep.
young person full of
Hmm.
energy. You
Yeah.
can do a lot of things. There are a lot of opportunities around you, and you're not
Mm.
observing them. Like, I don't know what is making you so busy not
Mm.
to observe what is actually around you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I personally think everyone needs to read that book. I wish my parents read that book
Yeah.
and
Bringing you up.
definitely they are educated, because you see most of our I think it is you who wrote about it. I don't know if I
Mm.
read it from your book.
Mm.
And you say that we have a lot of time being young, like 18
Mm.
years. Like you have
Mm.
18 years of somebody making decisions over your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I know.
So this means if this person's mind is not well organized and well set,
They're
then they are
gonna
going to
mess
make
you up.
bad decisions on your behalf. Yeah, they're going to totally mess you up. I remember my dad was a tailor.
Yeah.
That's where I picked the passion.
Mm.
But because he did not go to school,
Mm.
he never wanted us to learn. And every time
Yeah.
my father could find you on his sewing machine,
Wow.
those were things. He could be like,
Mm.
no, I want you to study, go work
Mm.
in state house and all of that. So my father
Yeah.
has 20 kids. In my heart, I was like, you're able
Mm.
to take 20 kids to school, feed them,
Mm.
and you think this is not like business?
Yeah.
So my father felt like maybe going to university, getting a
Mm.
degree and all of that would be way, way better. And I
Mm.
don't blame him, because maybe that is the best way he knew how maybe to raise kids and give them the
Yeah.
best future. But I believe if the people
Even.
that are actually raising our kids, because they contribute a lot into our lives and what we are actually going to become,
Mm.
are
Mm.
able to go through such a kind of, I don't know, if they are able to get that literature and they
Mm.
know it,
Mm.
I believe we would have been in a better place. Like our
Yeah.
education system, a lot of people have complained about our education system, but
Mm.
because people that make decisions on what syllabus we are going to study are still in that,
Yeah.
colonized minds, and they do not
Mm.
understand.
Yeah.
Even when they will not. Some
They,
people, you need this information, they do
they,
not understand, and you
yeah.
don't blame them.
Yeah. No, they are
I believe.
clueless. And I guess I wrote about it in the introduction. What you just said there, I realized my parents, the teachers, our leaders, they didn't know these things. They were clueless. So I should not
Mm,
blame them. I know, and from now, I need to be
yeah.
responsible and do something.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in my heart, I was like, wow. every parent needs to read this book. Like every parent needs to read this
Yeah.
book.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
a
No.
really
That.
great book. My
Mm,
niece told me. I was
mm,
asking my niece, she's in senior one now,
yeah.
and I was asking her, "What do you want to be in future?"
Mm.
And she told me, "I want to be a social media influencer." I was like, Jesus Christ, I want to be a social media influencer. And I
Yeah.
was so pissed about it. I
Yeah.
was talking to a friend, and my friend was like, "Vivian,
Yeah.
you see these videos I post and all of that? I earn like 5 million a month." I was
Yeah.
like, "You're kidding, you're better than an accountant."
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah." So because we are not exposed and our minds are
Mm,
stuck in, it is either
yeah.
engineering, it is
Yeah.
either a doctor, it
Yeah.
is either, there are a lot of things that our minds are still stuck in the
Oh,
past.
yeah. Mm, mm.
We need a key to lock them up. Like we need
Yeah.
that mindset shift.
Change.
And you know that there are a lot of opportunities in this world. You're not limited. You can do anything that you want and you can succeed on it.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
No, that is really powerful. Yeah. Ah, that is so encouraging. I mean, to see someone as young as you with this newfound structuring of the mind. I mean, that is great. And you did this without leaving Uganda, without working in a big job in another country, but just by reading, you unlocked the thinking of your mind, and you are on the road to being successful, whether in Uganda or anywhere you end up. Is that a right characterization? Yeah.
Yes,
Because
exactly. Exactly.